What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red and Gold Standard Podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts Matt Llewellyn and Mike Andrews. Thank you, everybody, for waiting a couple minutes. I had some technical difficulties here, but now we are live, recapping the 49ers' fifth straight win, 28-16, a victory here at home versus the Seattle Seahawks. That means they swept their division rivals for the second straight year. Before I toss it over to my panel here, if you guys are tuning in on X, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive and join from there. While you're there, hit like, hit subscribe. It helps more than you think. Now that I got that out of the way, Matt, how you doing tonight?
Big win. Another notch, another feather in the cap. 3 straight weeks of birds, 3 straight birds in the bag. So I have nothing to complain about, Zach. It was a good day for me.
Yeah, exactly. The bird hunt continues. Mike, how you doing tonight?
This is beautiful, man. I am ecstatic, and this game helped me recover. I had a really rough night last night in a good way, but this game definitely helped me recover. It was a sobering experience. That's the way I'll say it. Very good.
All right, man. Yeah, one hell of a game. This was close at one point, and maybe as 49ers fans, we've gotten so spoiled that a 12-point victory feels like a 3-point victory, but pretty much the entire second half was a 2-possession game. And I thought this was one of Brock Purdy's better performances of the year, which is saying a lot. He unfortunately did have that interception. I think him and Ayuk were not on the same page, but let's just start right off the top. First play from scrimmage, Christian McCaffrey, like a 70-yard run to get it first and goal from like the 4-yard line. And boy, was I frustrated that McCaffrey was not in there on the second play to punch it in. It was Jordan Mason of all running backs. Matt, what did you think of that? Do you think he was just winded and Kyle put in the next back, which was Mason, or any design there?
Yeah, man. Like it's kind of like a running joke, right? That Christian McCaffrey doesn't have that super breakaway speed. Dude got caught. Like he was in the open field. I saw nothing but grass, and then eventually, somebody caught up to him. But yeah, when you're running that hard, and you can see on the replay too, I don't know what it is, but when Christian McCaffrey is running hard, it looks like he's playing with everything in his soul. Looks like the life is coming out of him. You can see like the fatigue under his eyes start to form as he's running in real time. But yeah, I think it was just one of those things. And Ed showed him on the sideline afterward. He was happy for Jordan Mason. That's the type of team this was. I don't know if you guys saw prior to the game, Javon Kinlaw entered the locker room wearing an Eric Armstead jersey. This is a tight group, so I don't think that there was any problem with, with the touchdown going to somebody that wasn't Christian McCaffrey, despite the fact that he put in all the work. Sorry, I'm looking in real time as Stephon Gilmore forced a fumble that the Cowboys ended up recovering. So it's looking like we might be number 1 after tonight, boys.
Damn. All right. I love it. Mike, we talked about this last night on the preview show. The only concern for Drew Lock is maybe the 49ers don't know what to expect versus with Geno Smith. They've played him each of the last games that the Seahawks play the 49ers. So there's an expectation there of what they're going to be facing. Drew Lock came out and he was dealing, man. That touchdown pass to DK Metcalf was probably one of the better throws I've seen all season. It was fantastic coverage by Ambry Thomas, but he still, put it in a place where only DK could get it and still get feet in bounds. What did you think of Drew Lock's start to the game? And at any point, did it kind of make you nervous as to what the 49ers were dealing with today?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was extremely nervous, and thank God that they decided to stop going downfield because I thought it was going to be a long game for us, man. And when we started, I'm like, all right, opening drive. This Niners defense is kind of this way. We either start rough and finish strong, or we tend to take our foot off the gas at the end. So which one is it going to be? I was happy to see that it was, the other way around, rough start, but then we knuckled down pretty much. Drew Lock, I think I even said it. Did Geno Smith just lose his job? But, the smoke cleared and it was like, all right, maybe not. Drew Lock is Drew Lock. But kudos to them. They tried. They gave it a good effort. And I understand why DK Metcalf was frustrated because they showed this at one point in the game. They showed that he had 2 targets, 2 receptions, 50-plus yards, and a touchdown. And they said since then, he wasn't even targeted, but he was routing the Niners DBs up. They showed this little cut up of him getting wide open like 3 or 4 different times, but they just weren't even looking his way. It was almost like we're going to save him for later or something. I couldn't figure it out to save my life, but football gods were on our side. When he was open, they weren't targeting him. And then when they finally started targeting him, he was blanketed and didn't do anything the rest of the game except throw a couple of face mask grabs.
Agreed. He was, I was like, oh, damn, okay, so much for the 49ers having DK's number. He's going to go off on this one. I don't even know if he lasted the first full drive, but Charvarius Ward left at for sure after the first drive with a groin injury, did not come back in the game. He stayed on the sidelines with his jersey and pads on, kind of kept trying to jog it out, see if he can come back in, but he never did. Once that happened, I was like, oh boy, we're in for a long day here. DK is about to have like 12 catches for 170 yards. I don't know if anybody else is going to catch a ball. That didn't happen. Like you said, Mike, he didn't have a single catch after those first 3 and in the score. So shout out to Diamador Lenore and Bree Thomas and even Isaiah Oliver, because the 3 of them kind of teamed up to lock Metcalf down. Matt, what did you think of the 49ers defense performance in this game? Only giving up 16 points. How did you feel?
Yeah, I thought it was good overall after the first little bit. I think I could have given a little bit more credit to what Mike and some others and Zach, you had said, where there is a little bit of uncertainty within the unknown. And I think that the 49ers kind of got caught by that early and then settled in. And then what I predicted came true in the second half, which is that Drew Lock is known to suck. That's when the picks started happening. He almost gave one up real early, but unfortunately, I think it was Ward and Brown collided trying to get the pick, and it just ended up falling by the wayside. Overall, team defense looked good. Nick Bosa towards the end was starting to wreck shop. You could see how important that sack was. And quietly speaking, I know that me and Mike and stuff before the bye week, we were questioning, hey, where's Nick Bosa? Dude quietly has 9.5 sacks now on the season. It kind of creeped up out of nowhere. Like, where did that come from? So he's back to being Nick Bosa. Chase Young played a huge role in that last interception that Drew Lock, just kind of threw up there. It was kind of a rainbow ball that Warner ended up coming down with, but Young definitely diverted that pass by hitting Drew Lock's arm. Overall, I thought Javon Kinlaw did a really good job of getting in there and doing some work. And then shout out to Kalia Davis, who later in the game, when Javon Hargrave had to leave with that hamstring injury, slotted right in there too. Dre Greenlaw kept it together, looked pretty good. And Fred Warner, all pro Fred, as always, just completely baiting DK into another meltdown. I loved everything I saw. And shout out to the rookie Jair Brown. Interception, looked good all day. Dude was out there making plays. It's been almost no noticeable drop-off from Talanoa Hufanga with Brown in there, in my opinion. And that's saying a lot. That kid is balling.
He's playing really well, and I just got to say, bad beats happen. I had a parlay bet today, Nick Bosa sack plus a Diamador Lenore interception. When Nick Bosa got a sack, I'm like, all I need is the Lenore interception. It's coming. Lenore gets his interception, and they flag Bosa for being offside, which, in my opinion, should have been a false start. Like, I think the center lifted his head, and that's when Bosa went. It is what it is. I still won a couple of the bets today. Bosa had over 50 receiving yards. Ayuk had over 50 receiving yards, and Debo had a touchdown. I was surprised McCaffrey didn't get in the end zone.
Bosa did not have over 50 receiving yards.
Sorry. Kittle and Ayuk.
Don't the centers always lift their heads though? Like especially
on
shotgun.
Kind of like
they always do the thing.
He was already up, and he kind of went more. From the replay I saw.
I don't know. Okay, so he did like a double take.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, it was right against the play clock too.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing.
It is what it is.
But yeah. I feel you on that bad beat, man. Yeah. Wasn't the over-under today like 44.5 and it finished at 44 points?
Yep. Exactly.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the injuries because, there were a couple. We already talked about Mooney Ward. Greenlaw also left the game, did return. Oren Burks, Greenlaw had a hip injury. It was a kind of on a weird play where the Niners missed like 500 tackles and he kind of got hit midair by Fred Warner, and it was a hip injury. I looked like a knee to me, but apparently it was a hip.
I thought he messed up that knee badly.
Yeah. Luckily, he came back in. Oren Burks had a knee injury. Kyle said he could have come back in if he needed to, but he didn't. Traveris Ward had the groin injury, did not return. And Javon Hargrave likely pulled his hamstring. He did not return either. If I'm missing any, please let me know in the chat. So, Matt, the most serious one out of those, it sounds like is Hargrave. Granted, I guess we got to see with Ward, but I guess it was promising that he could have, or he almost did come back, even though he ended up not coming back. Did any of those concern you, like long-term wise?
I don't think they concern me long-term wise. It's not like we saw anybody go to the back and, stay off the field or have to go to the locker room for an extended period or anything like that. I do think for me that Ward's is a little more concerning just because of the nature of a groin injury and the position that he plays as opposed to Hargrave. I think a lot of what they were doing with Hargrave is that Hargrave's a big dude. And if you feel that muscle tweak and you have as deep a line as they do, you can kind of just hold him out. Like, hey, we need him from the stretch run. Hamstrings can be tricky. Let's just pull him now, keep him out, do whatever. But when I was watching Ward kind of walk up and down the sideline, you could see he kind of had a little bit of that, a little bit of that pimp limp going on. You know what I'm saying? It looked like the groin was kind of affecting him a little bit. And so that one you really want to be careful for because he has history of groin injuries. So with him, you definitely need to watch out. This is a repeat thing that's happened going back to his days in Kansas City that you want to pay attention to because you don't want that to linger at such an important position. But besides that, I'm not super concerned about long-term injury with any of the guys outside of Ward.
That's good. That's really promising because they were definitely starting to pile up. The 49ers were already without Eric Armstead, Elijah Mitchell going into the game, and then we see all these other injuries piling up. Luckily, they were able to overcome it. Luckily, none of them seem long-term. I did want to talk about Jason Verrett is back. And not only is he back, he was already at the team facility after the game. We see videos from NBC Sports Bay Area, Verrett dapping up Lenore and Thomas immediately after the game. I believe he signed to the team's practice squad for Matt Mayoko. Mike, does he get any actual time within the next couple of weeks? You think he's going to see the field, or is this only a practice squad move?
It's going to depend on the Mooney situation, I think. A lot of people are really down on Isaiah Oliver, but if you could put Thomas, Verrett, and Lenore out there, I think it'll be a formidable. We have to see what he looks like, though. I find it weird that he couldn't make the secondary in Houston. So I am not going to just say that he's going to come in there right away, but the new rules with the practice squad, how you can elevate and put him back down and elevate and put him back down a certain amount of times. It's just as good as having him on the active 53. So it's very possible that he gets in there. But right now, I would say it's probably less than a 25% chance, unless it's something severe with Mooney Ward.
Okay. All right. All right.
Oh, that's what the super chat was. Jason's coming for you, Mike. That's what the super chat was about. Okay.
Grace.
I was wondering. So apparently I told the story about him blocking me and all that stuff. So I didn't know I told people who it was. Right. I thought I left the player's name out.
I think people guessed. I think people guessed.
Okay.
But I think I agree with Mike. I think it's a 25% chance he ends up on the active roster. I think this is more to get him into the meeting rooms and help out some of these younger guys. To me, I don't think that it would be wise at this point in Jason Verrett's career to rely on him in any way in a physical capacity. I think there's just too many injuries to overcome in that way. But when you got guys like Womack and Luter and you lose Mooney Ward and you want to put some of these guys in a position, I think that a veteran like Jason Verrett, who is good when fully healthy, he could teach some of these guys, play like almost that Richard Sherman type role. I don't think he's going to really see game time, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. All right, so let's move on to the 49ers offense. Brock Purdy, baby, 19 for 27, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, like I said earlier. QBR of 66.1, passer rating 122.1. He averaged 13.6 yards per throw. just an amazing game. Anybody who's saying he's a dink and dunk quarterback clearly didn't watch his performance today. I mean, he was just balling. I think I saw a stat from Nick Wagner on throws today of 16 or more yards. He was 6 for 6 for 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. I mean, it couldn't have had a better location. That deep pass to Deebo Samuel. Watching the replay in slow-mo, the ball just appears in his hands right here. Like he's running, boom, it just pops up. Matt, I'll start with you. What did you think of Brock Purdy's performance today?
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I just thought it was funny that, people were second guessing Brock Purdy and kind of dunking on him after the first, 3 or 4 passes that he threw, as if those weren't scripted plays. It's like he's trying to work with the plays that they have on sheet based off of what they think Seattle's going to do. Right. And it's annoying because it's like, if they don't do what you expect them to do, or there's a wrinkle, what are you supposed to do? Those are set plays. It's funny because as soon as Shanahan kind of saw what Seattle was doing, what happened after the first couple drives when he got through the script? The offense opened up, got better. Same thing happened last week in Philadelphia. So this team has had, some issues early going, but then Brock Purdy opens it up and he hits Deebo on a beautiful deep ball. He gets another deep ball. I believe that one was to Deebo as well. And that one he scrambled out left and threw on the run. Then he threw to Kittle for a wide open touchdown. That Deebo throw, by the way, was 48.8 air yards according to Next Gen Stats. So, checked out merchant my ass. That's all I'm going to say about that. And speaking of Brock Purdy, Mike, I think we got to, do our little giveaway.
Let's do it, baby.
I gotta say, closest, we said whoever got closest to Brock Purdy's passing yards was going to win the hoodie. And it looks like it was Sin for the win. Cinnamon came in here and, I prompted her and she said 375 yards. She was within 7 yards of Brock Purdy's final total. Sin, you win the hoodie. So go ahead and we'll get in contact with you, get your size, get your information, get, all that good stuff, and we'll send that out to you. But awesome day overall from Brock Purdy. The one thing that was a blemish was the interception. I'm not going to sit here and try to overanalyze it, whether it was Ayuk running the wrong route or Purdy thinking that Ayuk was going to run a different route. Miscommunications happen in the NFL. It's happened to the best quarterbacks. It's happened to the best quarterbacks and resulted in interceptions. It's much ado about nothing. These miscommunications happen from time to time, and it was a tip drill interception. No big deal there. Overall, Brock Purdy, to me, stays in the front runner for MVP, despite what national media would have you believe.
Yeah, agreed 100%. I was looking at some of these stats here, and I think I saw the 49ers have the same explosive play rate as the greatest show on turf. Like, this offense has that same exact explosive play rate. It's just insane. I mean, and Brock, if you listen to Kyle Shanahan as he breaks the team down in the video they put out, he says, I don't remember the last time I was a part of a team that had a 300-yard passer, 2 100-yard receivers, and a 100-yard rusher. That's what the 49ers had today. Brock, a career high, by the way, 368. His previous career high, I believe, was against Cincinnati, 368. Ayuk and Deebo and Ayuk each had 100 yards, and McCaffrey had 100 yards rushing. By the way, shout out to Brandon Ayuk, back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons, first to do it since Anquan Bolden, and one of 4 49ers receivers to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Extremely impressive, and in my opinion, just proves that there's absolutely no way the 49ers can let this man walk out this door. When you have a quarterback who's special and has a special relationship with a receiver, they're growing together. Please do not let Brandon Ayuk walk out this door, because the dynamic they have together is fantastic. It really is appreciated. I wanted to play this clip, and then I wanted to get Mike's thoughts on Purdy's day. I was really impressed with how Purdy talked about the deep touchdown pass to Deebo, so I'm going to play this here and get your guys' thoughts. Let me make it bigger. All right.
I saw Jamal Adams sort of didn't come down like really, really hard, but I sort of saw his feet, like coming down. He was sort of flat-footed, and I was like, all right, with Debo moving, I was like, we can get over the top here. And so took my drop. He wasn't necessarily like the number one guy in the read. It was actually Juwan. But the way Jamal Adams came down, I was like, this could be a big one. So let it rip and let Debo get under it.
That's impressive to me. I don't know, Mike. What'd you think of his day? Any thoughts on his answer there?
No, it's great to see a guy getting comfortable in the system and knowing the play, not just being a robot out there. We talked for years. Does Kyle Shanahan control the QBs too much? Right? He wants them to throw to who he wants them to throw to every time. And Kyle's even having to go to the podium saying, yeah, I didn't think he was going to do that. I didn't think that was the right one. He should have went to that one, but I'm happy he did what he did. How many times this season have we heard the throw across his body a couple weeks ago? Like, Kyle is going to the podium week after week saying that Brock Purdy and his play and performance is surprising him, and he's not complaining about it. He's saying, I didn't think it was the right way to go, but I'm glad he did it. Even Kyle is almost being, dare I say, humbled by what Brock Purdy is doing within the system. This kid is getting comfortable, and it's not just a matter of being programmed. You don't just go out there and tell me exactly who to throw to. Let me read the defense, let me make a decision, and trust that I'm going to make the right decision. Kyle Shanahan finally has a quarterback that he can trust to just go out there and call the play and see how it plays out. I absolutely love it. Brock Purdy is everything that we could have wanted him to be and more.
Yeah. I saw, by the way, I have this stat here. Let me pull it up. Brock Purdy became the fourth quarterback in NFL history with a completion percentage of 70 or higher in 7 consecutive games. The others to do it, Drew Brees, 7 games, Sam Bradford, 7 games, and Joe Montana, 8 games. So if he has a completion percentage of 70% or higher next week, he will tie Joe Montana for the longest streak in 8 games. Just unreal stuff we're seeing here from a second-year quarterback. And Matt and I talked about this last week, when the only argument you have against him being a good player is, well, he's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. He's not as good as Josh Allen. He's not as good as X players. Like, you have to understand the category you're putting him in is already like other elite quarterbacks. It's like arguing your car isn't as good as a Ferrari, isn't as good as a Lamborghini. It's like, well, yeah, but you would expect it to shape up well against those elite cars if your car is in that category. So if that's how you feel about Purdy, then those are the only names you could mention about him. I was really impressed with his performance today. Looked like that interception. Ayuk, like Matt said, they just weren't on the same page. Looks like Ayuk usually cuts that up more, and Purdy was expecting him to cut it in. It is what it is. Ultimately didn't affect the game at all. Nigel, is this credited on who we have as a quarterbacks coach? Well, Greasy certainly was the one who wanted to draft Purdy, from what I remember. As far as his development, I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know if there's one person you could credit for it.
You know, I think the narrative needs to die around, yeah, well, he's no Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, well, he's no Josh Allen. Maybe in terms of, excuse me just a second. I think I got to sneeze. Nope. Okay. Maybe in terms of,
Bless you.
Bless you.
All right. I knew I had to. Everybody's bullshit was starting to get to me. Maybe in terms of the number of years doing it, but Brock Purdy is second in the NFL in passing yards, second in passing touchdowns. He's near the top in completion percentage. And if the season finished today, his 9.9 yards per attempt would be the highest number in over 65 years. So Brock Purdy is in elite company, and he's doing it. And go back and watch that throw to Deebo Samuel and tell me that he has some type of noodle arm. Because that thing was a seed. That thing looked beautiful. Had great velocity. It wasn't this big old flutter ball that was, 10 miles in the air like you'll see college quarterbacks throw, or, when Aaron Rodgers would throw a Hail Mary or whatever. That thing was nice, and it was perfectly placed, and it was caught Deebo in stride. And it's the type of thing that we haven't seen in San Francisco in a long time. So I honestly, the people that are saying, oh, well, Brock Purdy is no this and this and that. No, he's his own unique thing. And I think that we need to start celebrating that. To me, like I said, he's like a younger Drew Brees, like a Chargers Drew Brees. And at this point, he's starting to morph into New Orleans Drew Brees right before our very eyes. He's looking really, really good. And so I actually think that Willie Snead was definitely onto something, because that's what he looks like to me right now. And I mean, come on, man. Like, name a category that he's not one of the top 5 in any way, shape, or form. Right. I mean, he's got to be near the top in not turning the ball over as well.
His touchdown to interception ratio was incredible. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Right. What more do you want out of this kid? So I'm looking forward to the lazy takes from people that didn't actually watch the game. Looking at you, Eric Mangini. Looking at you, Nick Wright. Looking at you,
Joy Taylor.
Pointer and Joy Taylor. Looking at all the national media heads. By the way, Nick Wright tweeted out something about Brock Purdy early in the game, and then when Brock Purdy went off, it was just silence.
Yeah.
So
Of course.
it's all the same offenders. It's all the same BS. Everybody's married to their narrative. I look forward to Stephen Ruiz coming out with another stupid fucking rating where Brock Purdy's rated below, like, YA Tittle or whoever the fuck. It doesn't matter anymore. The proof is in the pudding. Statistically and with the eye test, Brock Purdy's the man. Plain and simple. Brock Purdy is elite at this point.
I want to address this. GOK says Debo said they practiced that play and they never came to him in practice. That's why he wasn't really running until he saw Brock Purdy look up and then he took off. One, that is cool because, yes, even I think Brock said Jawan is number one in that read. Debo's like the third, but we talked about it. We just showed the clip. When he saw Jamal creeping into the box, he knew he had him. But this is our fucking problem with you, Debo. If it's not going to you, you don't give it 100%. Like, you got to give it 100% and sell it. And JT O'Sullivan has broken this down on the QB school like 1,000 times, talking about look at 19 out there, not giving 100% effort. If the ball's not going to him, if he knows the ball's not going to him, if he doesn't have the ball, if it's a fake. So maybe it would sell it a little better if you did give it 100% when you know you're not getting the ball. And maybe you would get the ball in those situations because look what happened today. If that ball was overthrown because he wasn't running full speed, can you imagine how frustrated all of us would have been? Like, we would have been so pissed off because we were like, he let up. Why did he let up?
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
I think that also proves what I said in the previous show about what Greg Cosella said about Purdy, though, that he recognizes those late rotations. And I'm sure that he recognized that Debo had just started picking it up. He's looking at Debo. He knows how fast Debo's going and how fast Debo can go. And the adjustment there was really good. So that's one of those where it's like you have the wide receiver telling you that he was kind of loafing a little bit until he realized, oh, okay, this is happening, right? And then you have a quarterback who puts the ball just right on him. Yeah. I mean, you kind of got to give credit to Brock Purdy in that situation, right? Like, all Debo had to do was run and then just put his hands up. I mean, that pass was feather soft, just like right into his hands. So these people got to get another narrative, man, because the one they got, it's played out. It's not working.
And what I love the most about Brock Purdy's deep passes, there's no like turning around and waiting for it to come to you. He is hitting these guys in stride, allowing them to continue with their momentum, which makes it so much harder for if there is a safety back there to get the right angle on them and all that stuff. These guys aren't stopping and waiting for the ball to arrive. He is doing it beautifully, man, and I absolutely love it. He deserves so much more credit than what national media is giving him.
I saw a clip going around, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's complete bullshit. But Joy Taylor on the first things, I think it's first, I don't know what show she's on, but she goes, Brock Purdy could win the MVP if he goes back in time and doesn't lose those 3 games. If he plays better in those 3 games, then he could be the MVP. It's just the most stupid take one could think of. And the narrative around him is ridiculous because nobody talks about, speak. Nobody talks about, Jalen Hurts throwing like 3 interceptions in a loss versus the Jets. Nobody talks about Mahomes looking bad against the Broncos. Nobody talks about Allen struggling early in the year. But for some reason, and that's also how we know you didn't actually watch those games because Purdy played well for the most part in those 3 losses. And nobody's even talking about that Cleveland game if Moody makes that kick. And then he gets concussed the next week. And then he has a career game against Cincy. Unfortunately, doesn't win, but he still played really well. So I don't understand how people can't evaluate his performances individual of, the team winning or losing, because then you would really see he played well. He played well in most of the year.
And here's the other thing. If Dallas ends up holding on tonight, then the 49ers are tied with Baltimore, Dallas, and Philadelphia for the best record in the NFL.
Yeah.
So what is she talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but she's saying that he's only going to get MVP if the team had a perfect record. Duh.
Basically.
That's
you can't lose at all, apparently.
Yeah.
For Joy Taylor.
But we have to realize that Niners don't get those kind of accolades. Like, we remember Nick Bosa not even getting a vote for Rookie of the Year. We remember Kyle Shanahan not getting Coach of the Year, using 3 or 4 quarterbacks and getting his team to the fucking NFC Championship game. Like, we don't get those kind of accolades. It's just not something that we get. The comeback player of the year, Nick Bosa didn't get any votes for that also. Like, it's just a bunch of stuff that the Niners, for whatever reason, constantly get overlooked for. And what I don't understand is like, oh, well, there's just so many good pieces on that team, so that's why they're successful. Well, isn't that the purpose of drafting and developing talent and all, so that the guys can be good? Like, it's a tiring, exhausting excuse.
You're punishing the team for drafting well. Basically, that's what you're saying. Because most of the pieces here were drafted, developed, homegrown. It really is frustrating, but that's where we're at.
Including Brock Purdy.
Including Brock Purdy.
Purdy was drafted. Yeah. Listen, I mean, this kid, I don't know if you guys know, but Brock Purdy's 725 passing yards away from being the 49ers' all-time single-season passing leader. He's got 4 games to do it. He has to average 185 yards over 4 games to get that number. Like, that's well within reach. The 49ers could very well, with one real challenge left in the Baltimore Ravens, they're one real challenge away from potentially being able to, finish at number 1 seed in the NFC if they play their cards right, And you're telling me that he can't win, by the way, leading in all these statistical categories, can't win the MVP? Like, come on, man. That's East Coast bias at its finest. That's a BS. You're saying, oh, he's got all this help. Like, what great quarterback didn't? You show me a Super Bowl team that didn't have multiple superstars at multiple positions. All right. If you can show me that, then hats off to you, because I don't think it exists.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some Patriot teams that didn't have the most stacked offense, but their defenses were phenomenal. You know what I mean? So there's superstars over on that side. Right. Exactly. And Tom Brady, arguably the best quarterback ever.
You might not have the best offense, or you might not have the best wide receivers. You might not have the best running back or whatever, but you cannot show me a Super Bowl team that didn't have multiple superstars at multiple positions, regardless of if it's an offense or defense. Yeah. Right. You had to have multiple superstars. You can't be punishing people for playing on a good team, because guess what? If you're going to win the Super Bowl, you're going to be a good team. That's just the nature of the whole thing.
Brand, I just want to say really quick that the Eagles just allowed another 59-plus yard field goal go. This kid Aubrey, so he kicked a 60-yarder earlier in the game, and they showed like he had another 8 yards on that ball, bro.
Easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was right down the middle.
I wouldn't be surprised if he broke the record, if they let him do it, especially like in an indoor stadium at Dallas or whatever. He very well could.
And I phrased it that way because they didn't draft him?
No, he's undrafted.
He's an undrafted rookie.
Wow.
Yeah. He was playing soccer. He didn't even play football in college.
Yeah.
I refuse to say anything positive about the Cowboys. So when I phrase it that way, like the Eagles allowed another touchdown, like that's what I'm saying. It's this game. I love seeing the Eagles meltdown. I love it. I can't wait to go to work tomorrow just to see the look on their face. And I'm not going to say. I'm just going to look at them.
Yep. Yo, speaking of meltdowns,
be careful though. The Cowboys got 20 minutes of game time to fuck this up. So,
speaking of meltdowns, did you guys see Mahomes have an absolute meltdown today?
Yes.
On the sidelines and then in the post-game press conference?
And it is the most entitled thing I've ever heard an athlete say.
Yeah.
He went up there and said, this takes away from Kelsey's legacy. This was a Hall of Fame play by a Hall of Fame player, and you're calling a penalty that didn't even affect the play any way, shape, or form. So what you're saying is because the play worked out for you and it looked cool, that you don't want a blatant violation of the rules to be enforced.
Yep.
Kansas City, the gall, after you've had multiple game-changing plays be made by the Zebras for you, and now it goes against you, that everybody can see that the referees came out and said it was an egregious play because Andy Reid cried about not getting a warning. And it's like, we don't have to give a warning if the dude is obstructing the line judge's view of the goddamn ball. It was so blatantly obvious, and they're sitting there crying about it. It's the most entitled thing I've ever seen, and it makes sense. Yeah. It makes.
And by the way, that was the same play that Tony. He was the one that was lined up off sides, right?
Yep.
Wasn't he the one that caught the pass from Kelsey?
Yep.
Don't say it didn't have an effect on the play at all. He's like, if football is a game of inches and you're lined up over the line of scrimmage, like, what are you talking about, dude? Yep. Shut up.
I just had to share. That was hilarious that you're going to try out. Come on here. Basically, what you're saying is, yes, it was a penalty, but Travis is really cool. Like, Travis is a really good player. You should have just let it go because he's a really cool dude. fuck out of here,
Yeah,
dude. Like, you
no.
sound so
Kermit
entitled.
Mahomes up there being like, I can't believe the referees screwed me over. I can't believe it, Piggy. Can you believe it? Like, get out of here, man.
Yeah.
And by the way, Kadarius Toney is, man, that dude makes a lot of mental mistakes. I think he's kind of hurting the Chiefs, to be honest.
You can see why the
Like,
Giants
for every
were.
good play you get out of him, you're going to get a bad play too. It's no wonder the Giants gave up on him so quick.
Exactly.
What do you? Real quick question. I won't hang on it long because this is not about the Chiefs. But what do you guys think the biggest reason for their decline offensively is this year? And please just don't say Hill because he wasn't there last year either. So
I think it's an overall decline in the receiving core. And this, in my opinion, actually bolsters Brock Purdy's case for MVP because Mahomes won MVP on the backs of Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill and a younger, less beat up Travis Kelce and, better weapons around him. And when you see the decline in weapons around Patrick Mahomes, you see some decline in play from Patrick Mahomes. It's only natural because football is the ultimate team game. And so I think that part of that is that they just don't have the receiving core that they had prior, and it's coming back to bite them. And then to me, also the loss of Eric Bieniemy, who was very important to Patrick Mahomes' success, plays a role too. So all things considered, it's more than one factor, but you can see the cracks starting to show in a team that's been good for a lot of years. And I think this is just one of those years that the great, almost dynasty level teams have, where this is going to be a down year. I would fully expect them to retool in the offseason, but there's something missing from this Kansas City team. They just don't have the juice. Zach, what do you think, man?
I also agree Bieniemy leaving probably has a bigger effect than people thought going into the year. But age, I mean, honestly, like Travis Kelce looked like he was on a tear for the first month of the season or so, and that dude's just falling off a cliff. Like, he's dealing with nagging injuries that seem to be hindering his performances. The lack of investment at the receiver position. I can't even really say lack of investment though, because they do have Kadarius Toney, they have Sky Moore, they have Rashee Rice, they have young talent there. It just hasn't really panned out in the way that they expected it to. But it is also interesting because on the flip side, this is arguably the best defense they've had since Patrick Mahomes has been there. So I think it really is just a lack of help surrounding Patrick Mahomes. And people want to say, oh, Purdy's carried. Well, even the most talented quarterback in the league clearly can't do it without a little bit of help. Like, he was able to get a lot of wins with Travis Kelce being his number one star. But even when Travis Kelce takes a dip talent-wise, he's just sitting there like, shit, what the hell am I supposed to do? So I think it's a lot of everything, but age and the loss of Bieniemy is just, in my opinion, too much for them to overcome, which is funny to say because they still won like 8 games on the year. Like, it's not like they're having a losing season, but they definitely don't look like the Chiefs of the old. And I don't even know if they have more than 3 double-digit wins this year. So that's what I would say. Mike, do you have any other thoughts?
No, I was just wondering what you guys attributed it to. That's all.
Yeah. People are saying, do you mean Mr. Swift? Yes, I mean Mr. Swift. Yeah. All right, let's get back to this game.
But that's too easy, though, right? That's too easy to blame it on.
Yeah.
The Taylor Swift thing. Dude, Kelce has been mashed up and beat up, and it's something that has been coming for a long time. And he's talked about it. He's hinted that like retirement for him may be closer than it would be for other people. And by the way, it's the same thing that was the downfall for Gronk too. It's just injuries caught up, slowed him down. And he became a lesser player because of that. So I'm not even going to put Jim Everett the Great's comments up on here. But if you think Brock Purdy's getting carried still, that just means that you watched the Rams get beat by the Ravens instead. And you better hold that L to your chest tightly, my friend.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to share these last 2 stats about Brock Purdy. And then let's get into Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, etc. So against the Seahawks, he started 4 games against Seattle. He has 1,126 passing yards, averages 281.5 per game, 8 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown, 113.2 passer rating, and he's 4-0 in those 4 games. And the season pace update, he is on pace to throw for 4,646 yards, 33 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, these numbers are just nothing like I've seen in my, certainly adulthood as a 49ers fan, but I can't even remember. Jeff Garcia was the last 4,000 yard passer, and I don't even remember what exactly his number was. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say I looked up the numbers from that 94 team, and Steve Young had 35 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, which was absolutely phenomenal, but he did not have those yards. He did not have those yards. So that's saying, I think he had like 3,900 yards. That's saying something.
Yeah. It's so impressive. Second-year quarterback doing this.
Right. Mm-hmm. And by the way, it's funny that stat gets brought up too, right? Because if people go, oh, Brock Purdy gets carried. I mean, Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Ricky Waters,
Brent Jones,
a stellar offensive line, a fantastic defense with, Gary Plummer and Ken Norton Jr. and Deion Sanders and all those guys. It's just like, Merton Hanks, Tim McDonald, Eric Davis at the time, like the list goes on. And people like Brock Purdy gets carried. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Superstars at multiple positions, right? Of course, you can have great skill players and especially wide receiver, but those wide receivers are dependent upon the quarterback to get them the ball. And Brock Purdy puts the ball in places where those people can succeed. It's getting ridiculous at this point. Brock Purdy's elite.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently people want to see a quarterback succeed with like Walmart cashiers playing at receiver and tight end. Then they're good. Until they play with people that they just signed off working at Walmart or Target, then they're not that good because you don't really know how good they'd be. It's just complete BS at this point. But let's move on to Deebo Samuel because I want to give him his flowers. Today, he had his 19th career rushing touchdown, which is the all-time record for a wide receiver. But he also had 7 catches for 149 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Social media saying odd year Deebo. Odd year Deebo's on fire because, 2019, he went off. 2020, not so great. 2021, or excuse me, I got my years mixed up. But 2021, great. 2022, not so great. 2023, back on fire. Just an absolute fantastic performance from Deebo Samuel. And Brandon Ayuk as well. 6 receptions, 126 yards. But Deebo Samuel on the year has 739 yards. So he very well could get to 1,000. The 49ers could have 2 1,000-yard receivers this year. Matt, what do you think of Deebo Samuel? 3, you're right. Yeah,
3.
Kittle's pretty close,
George
right?
Kittle's there. At this point, I think it's an outlier for them to actually get 4, which has never happened in NFL history because I think that Christian McCaffrey's at like 490 yards, so he'd have to have like pretty preposterous last 4 games receiving to get there. But they very well could have 3,000-yard receivers and a 1,000-yard rusher with a quarterback that sets a team record. I think Brock Purdy's on pace to have 4,500 passing yards at this point. So that's, I mean, you're looking at an elite level offense all the way around with, by the way, all the charts that, I don't know what they put in the sauce or whatever. I just know the efficiency grades. The 49ers do not have great pass rushing or pass blocking, excuse me. We saw that today. Brock Purdy was sacked a bunch of times, but shout outs to the offense for adjusting. Shout outs to Deebo, who looks like a man possessed right now. Since coming back from injury and getting back in football shape, that he's been a man on fire. And he had another fantastic game today. Brandon Ayuk had the yards. Some stuff to clean up there. Whether that route was on him or not, he did have that fumble later on. That was, just kind of swinging his arm out a little too much. Kind of got to protect the ball a little better. But overall, I mean, the skill players are doing their jobs, and it's just fun to watch. It's very fun to watch because in years prior, we're worried about the quarterback play to the point where the ball gets in the air and we're like, oh God, where's this going? Now it's just like, hell yeah, where's this going? And it's a complete mind shift, and it makes the game so much less stressful to watch when you're actually just, sitting there. I feel much better sitting on my couch. My blood pressure is better. I'm healthier. The whole shebang, just because we finally have an elite level offense.
Yeah, definitely want to give Deebo his flowers. Mike, I think we're probably the podcast that's been the most critical of Deebo Samuel over the past couple of years. He had his whole trade fiasco, and then last year he definitely did not look up to par. But we got to admit, he's been on a tear. And he did mention, since having his son, that seeing his son out there kind of gives him that extra motivation to go out there and really put it all out there, leave a legacy for his son. What do you think of his performance, and what do you think of his performance on the year so far? Again, he's got, let's see. Sorry, I had it right here. 700. Oh, wait, no, that can't be right.
760 or something like that, right? Receiving.
This must not take into place.
Or is it all purpose?
I thought he was at 7 something, but this has him at 590. But I don't know if that takes into account today's.
Yeah, I was looking at those sites and I don't see today's numbers included in there.
Yeah,
because he was at 590, and then he also had 160 rushing yards that took him to exactly 750. But I thought that was all before today. I haven't been able to find it updated yet, but I know he had 149 today, so we can add that 150 to it. Wait, did he have the 149 or was it Ayuk?
No, he had it.
On the season, Deebo Samuel, 45 catches, 739 yards.
Thank you.
4 touchdowns.
Thank you.
Yeah.
739.
There you go. Yeah, receiving.
161 on the ground, and I think he has like 5 or 6 touchdowns on the ground.
So the cool thing about what we're seeing with Deebo is him being forced to play all the time. And when I say play all the time is the criticism was you're not giving it your all, and it's obvious when the play isn't coming to you. And if we can see that at home, the DBs that you're going against and the safeties are going to be able to see it as well. And now that we have him, being basically like not called out, because that sounds negative, but when they're addressing it to the media, oh, that play never came to me, so I looked up and then I had to run harder and all that stuff. That's going to make him aware of, hey, you got to give it your all every play now going forward. Like, it could be coming to you at any time. This is not your typical Jimmy Garoppolo led offense, right? So you got to be ready, because anybody that's eligible could get the ball thrown to them. And I think he's going to answer that. I think he's going to respond well to that. He's going to go out there, and I do think he's going to step up more. He's having a phenomenal year. I won't say phenomenal. He's having a good year, and I think that it's great to see him have back-to-back multiple touchdown games. I think this is something that is going to go a long way for him, and I think he's going to start to have a lot more fun going forward playing the game. These guys are really, really enjoying what they're doing out there. So, and shout out to Deebo, man. I hope he gets 1,000-yard season. He deserves it. The team deserves it. Forget just him deserving it. Like, the team deserves it. That's why they went out there and paid you the money they paid you. They want you to be that real rounded weapon. And so go out there and earn it, man. Go get it. I like it.
I saw here just on Deebo real quick. Last 2 weeks, 288 total yards, 5 total touchdowns. Just insane performances. And I think I saw he's the first 49ers receiver to have 2 games with more than 1 touchdown consecutively. So really impressive stuff. Last thought on Brock Purdy, I saw Nick Wagner just tweeted this out, some stats of where he ranks. For Purdy on the season, he is 7th in the NFL on air yards per attempt, 7.9 air yards per attempt. Ranks 4th in completions on throws traveling 10-plus air yards with 79, and 15-plus air yards, 51. 15-plus yards at 51. 5th in completions on throws traveling 20-plus air yards with 24. He ranks 2nd in completion percentage on 10-plus yard throws, and 1st in completion percentage on 15 and 20-plus yard throws. He also has 6 passing touchdowns of 40-plus yards on the season, the most by a Niners quarterback since Steve Young had 7 in 1998. Like, if you're still denying he's a good quarterback and playing at a very high level, you're just like, there's some cognitive dissonance. There's a fan filter in front of your face, or maybe you're like, you were a Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo stan and you are refusing to accept that Brock Purdy is good at football. Like, there's really no other way to put it. He's good at football. And if you want to say he's not an elite quarterback, you can at the very least say he's playing at an elite level right now. Like, that's the easiest way to put it. Yeah, right now,
exactly.
He's playing well.
To me, he's like a top 10 guy now. I mean, he's firmly got to be in that top 10. And by the way, if he wins MVP, you got to stick him top 5.
Oh,
you just got to do it.
Yeah.
If he's in the top 3 voting for MVP, you got to stick him up there. The fact of the matter is that people are having a hard time, guarding the 49ers, and these guys, Deebo, Ayuk, they can all get theirs because Brock Purdy's able to put the ball where they need him to put it, and it makes the offense fun and it keeps defenses guessing. And anybody else is just a hater, like you said. To me, this makes the Trey Lance thing look way more palatable when you see what Brock Purdy's doing. There's no part of me now that goes, I don't know if that was the right decision. At this point, I'm like, yeah, that was the right decision. Clearly, it was the right decision for this team that Brock Purdy should have been the starting quarterback. And if you weren't going to use Trey Lance and he wasn't going to get in there, you might as well trade him for at least something. So I think they sailed on that. Anybody that doesn't think that is sour grapes at that point.
And I think the team did the right thing by moving on from Trey Lance. So that way, I know that good players say, oh, I don't worry about who's behind me and all that stuff. But that's what they should have done when they got Trey. They should have let go of Jimmy so he's not looking over his shoulder. They decided this is the guy. We're not going to sit here and keep someone on behind him that he has to worry about maybe coming for the job. So I like that they did that. I like that they did it.
100%. All right. We're going to be wrapping up this show. Again, 49ers sweep the Seattle Seahawks for the second straight year with a 28-16 victory, their fifth straight. Season's been a little weird. 5 straight wins to start, then a 3-game losing streak in the middle, and now they rattle off another 5 straight here. So really impressive stuff. We are going to get to our chat pack.
Wait, before we do that, I just wanted to give a shout out to the defensive line. Those guys, I know we talked about how well everyone was playing for each other. You saw Randy Gregory get a sack, and he goes out there and does the Eric Armstead thing. One of you guys mentioned who was it that went into the locker room with the jersey? You said Armstead.
Yeah, it was Javon Kinlaw wore it before the game.
Kinlaw, right. Kinlaw stepping up, in the absence of Armstead and Hargrave. Like, these guys are out there, and they are working and earning it. And so it wasn't a dominant performance by our defensive line by any stretch of the imagination. For a lot of the game, I was really upset with the pressure or lack of on Drew Lock. But when it was time to put up and improve, they did that. They answered well. They got better and stronger as the game went on. And then the secondary has me legitimately wondering, are they the better unit than the defensive line that the Niners have invested so much into? And that's a good thing to ponder. If you can't definitively say the secondary is holding the defense, or the secondary is creating opportunities for the defensive line, or the defensive line is creating opportunities for the secondary, that means that you probably have a really good balance going on. And the Niners are just going out there and they look incredible. So shout out to the defense, and again, Kinlaw, who we don't give enough praise to. He's doing decent.
Yeah,
agreed. 4 sacks on the day for the 49ers. Bosa with 1.5. Kinlaw with a half sack, Cleveland Farrell with 1, and then Randy Gregory, of course, with 1. They held Seattle to 2 of 11 on 3rd down and forced those 2 interceptions from Drew Lock. So, good overall. I agree with you, Mike. Defense still looking good. Zach, what you got?
Yeah, I think Mike's point was extremely evident last week in Philly when their game plan was to not rush Jalen Hurts, was to sit kind of and allow themselves to kind of get, not held, but, blocked by the offensive line and not allow the rushing lanes, force Jalen Hurts to play quarterback from the pocket. He had like the longest time to throw on average this entire year. I think I saw he had 3.75 seconds to throw. Brock had 2.6 to throw. So the secondary, that just speaks to your point, Mike. They're playing at a really high level. And you gave the defensive line their flowers. Let me give the secondary their flowers. After losing Mooney Ward on the first defensive series, they still held it down. Diamador Lenore is playing at a really high level. Ambry Thomas came in. I know he gave up that touchdown, but he was in perfect position to defend that pass. And Isaiah Oliver, I know he gave up a couple passes, but at the end of the day, at least he's still a solid tackler. Matt, I know you pointed out at one play, Jair Brown had a really, really good tackle on the tight end, I believe. So the secondary is just playing really well, and I wanted to give them their flowers. All right, any final thoughts before we get into the chat pack?
No, I agree with you guys. I think this was a game. For me, this was a game that the score stayed closer than the game itself actually was. There was some funky stuff, right? Like, we forced Drew Lock into a pick, and then it seemed like I might have been the very next play was the Brandon Ayuk fumble. Just some weird, funky stuff. Like the Diamador Lenore interception that was wiped off the board by the Nick Bosa being like a split second too early. Those little things kind of kept this game closer than it actually really was if you watched it. This seemed like a pretty free and clear victory for the 49ers, as evidenced by that fake tough guy, DK Metcalf, getting all pissy and, breaking stuff on the sideline and going out there and just generally being, little DK Metcalf. He bringing that little DK energy. up in here, but I'm just saying, man. I would have liked to see Lenore keep it a little more in control. I heard he threw a punch, which is like, I think that's why he got ejected more so than for the shove that he did. I think there was a later punch that they talked about. Kyle talked about it. You like to see them more in control, but Fred did a masterful job just baiting DK into that mistake. And it just shows that when a team bullies another team so badly that, this second week in a row that the opposing team has felt like they need to go after the 49ers in a pretty scummy way to try to get one over, because on the field, no one can touch the 49ers on the field. That's just, it's plain and simple. So another great win. The score doesn't indicate how far away those two teams actually are. And now it's on to the 3-10 Arizona Cardinals, and hopefully feather number 4 from the bird list in our cap.
Jay Ellie says, and now he gets a cold helmet. I'm sure you guys saw it, but after that, he got locked out. He goes and he slams his helmet on the warmer, and it shatters. I tweeted the 49ers, you better send him an invoice for that. What the hell are you doing coming to our stadium breaking shit? Get your emotions in order, man.
No, he just took Jackson Smith and Jigba's little helmet warmer and said, "You get the broken one, rookie." So, I mean, honestly, they're not. I know Greg Olson was like, "Oh, I've never seen somebody break one." I'm like, bro, it's PVC pipe. It's not exactly
right.
It's not stainless steel, dude. Those break.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into our chat pack, we got to say thank you to today's sponsor, which is MyBookie. There are 2 Monday Night Football games tomorrow night, guys. So that's double the chances to make some money. They're not the best matchups, but that doesn't matter because all that's there is the odds. We got Green Bay at New York Giants. Tommy DeVito is out there. Tommy Cutlets. Can he upset Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers? And then they're simultaneous games. I thought one was going to be later. Absolutely not. Both at 5:15 p.m. Pacific time. Tennessee at Miami. Can Miami hang on to that number 1 seed? They haven't been able to beat really any teams with a winning record. They're not going to have a chance tomorrow night because Tennessee's 4-8. But who is going to win these games? Who's going to score? Will there be any defensive scores? You can parlay first touchdown score in each game to really increase those odds and get some extra cash for the holidays. I know we could all use it. Mybookie.ag. Use our promo code Hive. It's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Get that deposit bonus all the way to $1,000. Mybookie.ag. Promo code Hive. With anything, anywhere, anytime with MyBookie. All right, guys, let's move on to our chat pack question of the night. I got a good one picked already. Let me pull up the there we go. All right, chat pack question of the night. And chat, please comment your answers in the chat. What is your favorite saying or quotation?
Life is like a box of chocolates. No, I'm kidding. That's not my favorite one. I'm sorry. I got to think about, do I have a favorite quote?
Mine is like, when you're thinking about whether or not you want to argue a certain point, mine always like, that's not the hill I'm going to plant my flag on. Like that's just it. This, I don't have the emotional calories for that. It's not that important to me. Is that, you ask people, is that the hill you want to plant your flag on? Like, is this really what you want? So it's just a polite way of saying, reevaluate the situation and how critical it actually is. So that's one of my favorite sayings. The other one is, we've said it on this show, right? I've said it a bunch of times. If wishes and nuts were candies, if wishes and butts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. I like that one too.
Mine, go ahead.
I'm still thinking.
The more crass one is wish in one hand, shit in the other, and see which one fills up faster.
I have one. I don't necessarily live my life by this, but I say it all the time to Ash. And it's kind of like dog eat dog world, but instead it's a little more crass, and it's fuck or get fucked. I say it all the time. You either fuck or you get fucked. So, and obviously I don't live my life by that. I'm a nice guy. I'm not out here fucking people over, but it's a funny way to look at life. You fuck or get fucked. There's only 2 options in life. You fuck or you get fucked. So that's mine. Mike, what do you got?
I'm going to settle on.
Fuck around and find out, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the second cousin of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck or get fucked, fuck around and find out.
Mine is like pretty simple. I think I'm going to settle on it is what it is. it's such a bland, like, blah thing. But I live with this whole, like, a couple of years ago, I decided I'm not going to stress over anything I can't control. Like, other than sports, right? You're stressed, like, in the moment, right? Like, that's different. But as far as, like, life, I'm not worried about stuff that I can't control. Hey, it is what it is. Bills pile up on everybody sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You got to do whatever you can do, and what you can't do, you can't worry about it. Just keep going. So that, I think I'm going to settle on that one.
Nice.
It is what it is.
I love it. And that's such a perfect way to end the show, because it's like we all have stresses in our life, and there's literally no reason to stress over shit you have no control over. Like, it's either going to happen or it's not, and you're going to have to deal with it either way. So you might as well be in the best headspace, handling it as best as you can, because your reaction to it isn't going to change anything about what happened. So just keep that in mind when you're going through stressful situations. Whatever you do probably isn't going to change the outcome if you have no control over it anyway. So you might as well take the stress out of your head. Why punish yourself if you don't have to? So we'll end on that note. Mike, let the folks know where to find you if they don't know already.
Yeah, guys, head on over to the Patreon page, man. I'm going to do a fun little breakdown of some pressers later on. I'll probably do it tomorrow or the day after, but patreon.com/NB9ERS. You guys can head on over there. And if you aren't already subscribed, please check us out on the YouTube page. Nothing but Niners over on YouTube. And that's it.
Okay. All right. It's scrolling, or it's on the screen, patreon.com/NB9ERS. Matt, carry us out.
Absolutely. Looks like we're going to be number one after tonight. Devontae Smith just fumbled the ball back over to the Cowboys. It's
what a bozo. Sorry. I had to. I'm sorry.
But we're sitting atop of the football world. We're riding high, beating the Seattle Seahawks, sunned them again. We own this division. We own the NFC. It's a good place to be, boys. Great game tonight. Great show. Mike, thank you for joining us as always. Zach, always holding it down. Thank everybody for, coming out tonight, spending some time with us, watching the show. We love having you here as always. And until next time, go Niners.